Hi, this is Doug Petrie. I am the writer of this week's action-packed episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Bad Girls, the episode you're watching now. And we opened with a very typical Buffy fighting in the graveyard scene, but what's fun about this was that she's talking with Faith about their love lives. So they're having this very mundane conversation in the middle of this big fat action scene. And here's Eliza doing we're trying to show the differences between the two Slayers because they're going to be growing apart. And Eliza, as you can see, is very down and dirty. And Buffy's the thinker here. She's the one who's actually putting stuff together and figuring out that there's another vampire left. So they have their different styles, and that's something that we wanted to show here. And Faith can't wait for the count of 3, which I just love because it's not a plan. These swords, by the way, I was very into the weaponry of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and the kind of history that you get to play with. So we made up El Illuminati, a ancient duelist cult. I don't know if in reality there is such a thing as a duelist cult, but they're a lot of fun. And there was a line that got cut where Buffy told Faith that she had the attention span of a crack baby, and that never made it on the air, thankfully. And now the swords are gone, and we see that they're in Harry Groener's office. Harry is one of the best actors we've ever had on the series. He was just great as the mayor. This was a big hit, the Family Circus, Marmaduke, Funny Papers conversation. I had originally written a thing about the Family Circus and then cut it out, and then Joss Whedon polished it and put it back where they all have their takes. And Mr. Trick likes Marmaduke because he doesn't take anything from anybody. And there's a big laugh on the assistant liking Kathy. Now this guy, we kind of threw him in as a joke here, but he plays a pivotal role later, so he's established here. And this is really the episode where Faith falls from grace. Faith takes a big turn in this episode, and this guy's a part of it. What we really loved about Harry was that he could play just about anything we threw at him. He was a very comedic character, and yet when it was time to become dangerous or deadly, as you can see, there's what the mayor keeps in his cabinet. When it's time to be bad, he was about as scary as an actor could be. This is also an inside thing. The mayor loves things that are sanitary and clean, and he has handy wipes, and he hates germs, and it's a little inside joke. It's a very David Greenwaldian thing. We're kind of ribbing our own producer because David Greenwald just can't stand the germs, and he's talking. Oh, he's half jokingly talking about what's good for America. So there's a lot of David Greenwald in the mayor. And here we are with the opening credits of Buffy. This was the second episode of the series that I had ever written, and it was still, as a fan, such a thrill to be a part of it, and still is actually. But the opening credits change constantly because our cast members are always being moved around or replaced, or they go, or they get added. And back when Charisma was on the show and David was on the show, the first time as a writer that you see your own name in that Buffy the Vampire Slayer lettering, that kind of lettering that you see there, you just can't believe that it's your name on the credits. So that's still a thrill, actually. They were still in high school then. We were all so young. And there we are, in the high school. That guy with the striped shirt looks like one of the El Illuminati. They all have the bumblebee outfits that we'll see later. And here they are checking out their college applications. This is a fun scene. Joss Whedon changed one of the fancy schools that Willow gets into to Wesleyan, which was an episode with Wesley Wyndham Price, who I always call Wesley Wyndham Snipes. Willow getting into college, and we're setting up actually season 4 here because we knew even back then that Xander would not be going to college, and that his future was in trouble. Would he make something of himself or not? And we're still struggling with that in season 5, although he seems to be making something of himself. Seth Green's hair changed color just about every week. And here comes Cordelia, who was so much fun to write for because you can just completely uncensor yourself and write the meanest things you can possibly think of. And she's very angry with Xander here because they had a thing going, and he broke her heart. She stepped down from her high social status. Looks so angry on that line. I didn't think it was that angry, but there it is. And I don't think Seth's hair changes color within this scene, but from week to week it did change. There we go. Here's my name. My mom loves that, by the way. And Michael Lang was relatively new at this point, and I think he did a bang-up job directing this episode. And here we have the introduction of Wesley Wyndham Price, not Wesley Wyndham Snipes. And this is the first time that we've seen this new Watcher, and it's really fun to play with the expanded world of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Giles has been fired as Buffy's Watcher, and we played a lot with what Wesley would be like. Originally, I had thought of a Michael J. Fox type, kind of a George Stephanopoulos, American, young, aggressive go-getter. And we got Alexis Denisof to play Wesley Wyndham Price. And Joss wrote a stage direction. He thinks he's Sean Connery, but in fact he's George Lazenby. And we really lucked out. I don't think we knew how long he would stay on the show, and now he's living a long life on Angel, and he's just been around for a couple of years now. And he's a wonderful actor, and one of the funnier guys I've met in my life, which you wouldn't guess from his uptight performance as Wesley. But he really enjoys letting himself be the butt of the jokes. He doesn't have a big ego that way, and he just lets us mercilessly make fun of him. Although now he's kind of regaining his cool on Angel. And here, what's fun about this, too, is that Tony gets to be really cool. Giles is usually the stick in the mud. And here you've got this young guy who's a bigger stick in the mud than Tony. And what's fun about that is that you get to play Giles as a little bit of his Ripper personality. I really like the idea that Giles is this buttoned-down, stuffy tweed guy who, underneath it all, is this, angry, ass-kicking punk. And we got to let a little of that out of the bottle in this episode. And I was very excited that Giles right now looks a little put upon, but by the end of this episode, he will have a sword in his hand, and he will be very cool in the face of Lord Balthazar, who's coming up. Sarah played this scene incredibly well, just the comedy of being with Giles. And what's fun about this, too, is that by adding an interloper, this guy, you get to see these two being even tighter, and it kind of solidifies the bond between Buffy and Giles. They're both annoyed in the same way. And then Faith will come in and have absolutely no patience for this guy. What's also fun about this is that by bringing in a new guy, Buffy is on her own a little bit, and she's a little more open to being guided or going along with Faith. And the title is Bad Girls, and they're going to get pretty bad later on. You know, Buffy's always behaved herself, and she behaves herself less and less and follows the rules less and less as the series goes on. And here comes Faith. There she goes. I just love that that's her entire appearance in this scene. And this is actually Buffy beginning her her descent into darkness, if you will. This was a Joss Whedon edition, the matching stage directions. So we get to kind of make fun of Giles and comment on, you know, we know what we're doing. We know that we have these stock images of Giles wiping his glasses when he's frustrated. And when he sees the other guy do it, he just hates it. And here we get to play with a lot of thematic stuff, which is always fun for me, and I think just fascinating. And Faith is a great character to explore this thing about what is a Slayer. Because really, Buffy's job is killing things. And here she is, this beautiful, vivacious California high school student who kills things. And they're evil things, but she kills them all the same. And Faith really digs that about their jobs. Faith is much angrier, or maybe much more in touch with her anger. And here we've got the the growing lesbian subtext between these two, which was always fun to play with. And Eliza was always kind of pushing the sexuality, and no one remembered to stop her from doing that, which we're all very happy about. Gleaves, by the way, is the name of my sister's married name. So I've got a niece and nephew named Gleaves, and they were very excited to see their name on the tombstone there. There's a little self-serving thing. Now this is always tricky because you've got to show Buffy kind of screwing up, if you will, and it's hard because she's the hero of the series. And we had to show that she's open to help from Faith, because she knows deep down that Faith is doing some stuff she shouldn't be doing and has an approach that ultimately is going to lead to a really bad place. But would you want to listen to Wesley? I wouldn't. And here Wesley's advice gets her in a world of trouble. And this had to be written a whole bunch of times because Buffy actually hides here, you know, and you don't want your hero hiding a lot. We got around that by having many, many, many vampires come in. As you'll see, bumblebee costumes. They look like the Saturday Night Live bees. I keep expecting John Belushi to show up with antenna on his head and a guitar. Torches, always a good idea. Torches and swords. I think, you know, if I ever get really pretentious and write my memoirs, it'll be called Torches and Swords, because I write them in every time I can.
What are you doing?
And again, here you have this dichotomy of action versus thought, where Faith is all, let's shoot first and ask questions later. And if we get killed, cool. And Buffy is, no, stop, let's think about it. And these guys diving into the sewer hole was, I think, pretty hard to shoot. You know, how do you not bang your head? Stuff always looks so easy on TV. And this is very Alice in Wonderland, actually. We love playing with fairy tales and mythic imagery. And this is literally Faith saying, I'm going to jump down the rabbit hole. And there she goes. And Buffy has to jump in after. So it's Alice in Wonderland. Here we are back with Giles and Giles Jr., the annoying generation. Wesley pops a licorice into his mouth at one point, and I gave that to him as a character trait that never really stayed. You know, the fans clamored for it. Let's see Wesley eating more licorice, but the producers vetoed that. This scene is a fun, short, well-written scene, and I can say well-written because Joss Whedon wrote this scene. It's funny. With the writers, very often people come up to me and go, oh, I loved your episode. And you say, thank you. And you say, you know, I loved this line where they said, and they quote a line, and almost always it's a Joss Whedon line. But enough of my self-loathing. Let's go back to the action. This is a really fun scene, and this is one of the reasons... Hey, it's in the opening credits. This is one of the reasons that I just love this show, is the huge juxtapositions you can make in style and tone, and this is just a major kick-ass action scene. Which originally, I think I had them... knee-deep in water while they were fighting this scene. And sometimes you write things that, the producers just point at you and laugh. And the scene turns out fine when it's not in water. And I really enjoy seeing Buffy and Faith side by side, fighting together before they fight each other towards the end of the season. And there's the Bumblebee with the sword. And here's our water. Buffy is going to be drowned in this episode, and we chose this deliberately. I don't think any actor likes being held underwater for long periods of time, and we knew that, but we did it anyway. And the thing is, we wanted to do kind of death and resurrection, and we wanted to do something that Buffy had faced before. Buffy, fans will recall, drowned at the end of season 1. And what we wanted to use the water again, this mythic imagery of it's a baptism, it's a very kind of Christian Baptist image of rebirth through water. And she is now reborn. She's faced death, and now she's different. You'll notice her attitude is different. She's been badly scared. She faced death, and now she's a lot more like Faith. So that is not just a groovy little action scene, but also death and rebirth within this episode of Buffy. And you'll notice a change in her behavior from that moment on. And even though she changes, she's still respectful of Giles, which is fun because he's been fired. Wesley is the guy she's supposed to be obeying, as she has obeyed Giles throughout the series, but now she's starting to break from the council, and at the end of the season she's going to have an even bigger break from Wesley and the council. So really this is Buffy's senior year of high school, and she is in the process of graduating, and this is an episode where she will make some mistakes in that journey. Wesley trying to put his foot down is always fun. There she is, looking to Giles for approval, and she gets it, and she goes. I don't know where we got that frog. This was fun, just because we got Xander's very uncomfortable. He's got this thing about Faith, and I love that he's hiding behind schoolwork. Xander, the worst student ever, says, "I'm highly caffeinated, and some of us like to study, I wrote that line when I had about 7 cups of coffee in me, so the highly caffeinated thing was, method writing. There was a girl in my high school who I remember, there was an actual bad girl who I will protect by not naming her, but I remember her coming to the window of a class and breathing on the glass and drawing a little image on it and calling another girl out. So that's based on real life. I love what Nicky does with his eyeball here, his twitching eyeball, every time he says Faith. He's incredibly funny. This is an old joke, but it's fun. It's like Frau Blucher in Young Frankenstein. And what's fun, too, about this is that Willow is being left out in the cold. Buffy is Willow's best friend, and here she comes. I love this. And there's the heart, again, lesbian subtext, but the heart with the stake through it. Let's go stake some vampires in the heart. And yet it's this kind of romantic image at the same time. Because it's almost a seduction. Faith is very sexy, and she's saying, come play with me. And she couldn't care less about Willow or school, and Willow is Buffy's best friend, and Faith is testing that. So again, you're in a vampire context, but you got this very real-life friend dynamic going on. This is my favorite part of anything I've ever done on the show, I have to say. I remember acting this scene out in Joss Whedon's office. Not this scene itself, I didn't set myself on fire, but this cut here, there we go. From the staking to the dancing. I think that's just pure filmmaking. Michael Lang did a really good job. And for those of you who are wondering, when I acted this out in Joss Whedon's office, it was not nearly as sexy as it is here. And here we've got Angel, who's kind of the voice of sanity. And really, I should stop talking, because when these two dance, who wants to listen to me? And Faith just breaking heart. And here, Buffy is, again, we have a change in her behavior. She's ready for bad girl fun. And she freaks Angel out a little bit. And if Angel's freaked out, and he has lived for, over 200 years, he's seen everything. If he warns you, you know you're doing something wrong. There's a scene later on where Wesley and Giles show up, and there was a line that was cut where the bouncer won't let them in. They won't let Wesley in, and then the bouncer sees Giles, and he says, "Oh, you can go in, sir, and there's no cover charge for you." And they can't understand that, but then after they leave, the bouncer says, "Did you see that? It's David Bowie, and he brought a boyfriend." That got cut. Happily, actually. It's not that funny. But Wesley is. I love him being out of place in the bronze. And again, you get to, Wesley is kind of a mirror for all the other characters. By him being there, Angel looks cooler and Buffy looks badder. And he doesn't know about Angel, so Angel becomes more mysterious as well. And look at that, Buffy's got a little scar. It's great. She's becoming just a badass. Although Boreanaz doesn't really need Wesley to make him look cool, Boreanaz is just cool. And that jacket doesn't hurt. And again, Wesley, the egoless Alexis, giving everything to the other actors. And here she grabs her girlfriend and goes, "Call me." I like that she points to 3 guys when she says, "Call me." And here we have Lord Balthazar. What can I say? He's just hideous. God, he's just horrible. He's like every body part you don't want other people to see. The art department just went crazy with this. And this was actually, Joss and I were working late one night and trying to figure out what could we do that we haven't done before. And we were talking about pale and fat. And he's very pale and very fat. That special effect, by the way, was hiding a kind of obvious wire gag. You would see the wires if the screen didn't fritz out like that. So magic is our friend in television production. Balthazar is great because he's just so hideous and repulsive. It's funny, people have asked me, did you see the movie Blade? Because apparently there's a thing in the vampire movie Blade that's very similar. And I hadn't seen it, but there is a comic book character called the Kingpin. And Frank Miller did a comic book where there was a evil doppelganger of the Kingpin down in the sewers of New York. So when people say, "Hey, did you rip off Blade?" I'm like, "No, I'm ripping off Marvel Comics. Leave me alone." And here things are going to get bad. It's always hard to have your characters hesitate when they need to act. And originally I had this in a museum. I wanted them to steal stuff from a museum, and Joss changed it to a sporting goods store, which I think was a really good change. It just makes them more real and more bad. Here we have Faith's mantra, want, take, have, which my best friend's younger sister used to say that in high school. Love the casualness with which she breaks stuff. You know, she's a slayer. She's got superpowers. The cops will show up later. Here's Buffy experimenting with being bad, and you know what? She likes it. Knives are a big thing with these two. Faith is big with the knives and the bow and arrow. What's fun is that she will shoot Angel. She will shoot Angel with a bow and arrow later. Here we are in Act 3. Our girls are in trouble. Things are going to get dark. And watch the way Eliza raises her hands. Hands over your head. And here she's flirting with the cop, which I just love. Come on. How great is she? And, you know, Buffy's just in over her head. She wasn't expecting this. And Faith is digging this, you know. She likes getting into trouble. And here we have Buffy versus cops. This was something that that was going on in season 2 before I came aboard. And I always love having the Sunnydale police in the episodes. Because, you know, teenagers versus police, always a good idea. And superpowered teenagers versus police. Come on, who's not having fun? Here's Faith ready to bust out. It's a really good car crash, I think. And this is just every kid's fantasy, is you act out, you get arrested, and you just overpower the cops and split. And again, just, you know, it's really Betty and Veronica. You know, you got the blonde and the brunette, and the bad girl and the good girl. And what's interesting is that Buffy is actually the stronger of the two. And here we got Joyce saying, admit it. Buffy's all paranoid. You know, it's all this teenage stuff that you go through. You're always paranoid that whatever you did, your parents are going to know about. And who knows what your parents really do know about. I love Christine Sutherland, by the way. Joyce is just such a great character, and it's so much fun that Buffy has this mother who she loves and has this job that could get her killed at any time, and it's really what being a teenager feels like. There was a whole extended scene written with Faith showing up and having this big exchange with Joyce. Faith was going to show up with her bow and arrow and have some lame excuse. And I wrote it as much as possible to sound like an episode of Friends. We rip off Friends a lot. Joss explained to me that originally I wrote this kind of Monty Python-esque line where the mayor says, "Oh, those awful Boy Scouts, that was horrible." And he explained to me, no, the mayor really loves the Boy Scouts. He really believes in them. And that was when I started to get the mayor, that he's really sincere. He really loves America. Or he loves, you know, this Norman Rockwell fake vision of America. And what's fun about this is that it's all a mystery at this point. Why is this guy trying to kill him, and why is Lord Balthazar trying to kill him? And what we don't know is that the mayor is so much worse than Lord Balthazar could ever hope to be. Balthazar will tell that to Buffy at the end of this episode. And here's this boob who, you know, don't get used to him, is all I can say about the mayor's assistant. Don't grow too attached to Mr. Trick either, or the mayor. And this is just disgusting, you know. Talk about the layers and the things we get to do on the show, and you know, ladling liquid onto, Lord Fatty here is just horrible. And I love that he's cranky. This actor was great. We do have one outtake that's absolutely hilarious where Lord Balthazar's tub opens up, a little hatch opens up, and the actual actor's little white legs were sticking out and wiggling. And it's one of the funnier things I've ever seen on an outtake reel. The idea behind Balthazar is that he's kind of this angry cripple, and when he gets this amulet, he'll be able to stand up, and he won't be crippled anymore. And the idea of this guy standing up at full strength, being like one of the T-Rexes in Jurassic Park, you just don't want to see. This was the shot where you see his little legs sticking out. I feel so sorry for Willow in this scene. She's conjuring stuff in a pine fresh scent, and she's trying so hard to be Buffy's best friend. She's trying to be what she already is, which is Buffy's best friend, and she's all threatened by Faith. And, in terms of the metaphor, this was kind of when you're in high school, you've got your friends, and sometimes your friends meet a cooler, older kid who has a car or is in college or, has something that you just don't have because you're too young. And that's what Willow is going through here. She doesn't have superpowers. She's not a witch yet. She's the sweetest thing in the world, and she loves Buffy dearly, and she feels like she's being left out or that the dynamic is shifting. And she's right. She knows that she's being left behind because she ain't got superpowers. What's fun is that she's going to get her own superpowers, so she becomes a very powerful witch in her own right. And her power as a witch will continue to grow for a long time. Faith never liked Willow much. Faith missed a lot. It's funny, Faith is always pretending to be strong by being tough, but in fact Willow is stronger and tougher because she lets herself feel things. And there she feels bad. That one little line where she says, "Stupid." I feel so sorry for her. Allison Hannigan is just so great. And here Buffy is starting to doubt her path as a bad girl, and last night's escapades were enough, but not enough for Faith. You see that Faith has the bow and arrow. Later on, she'll shoot Angel with a bow and arrow, and the knives that they have. Faith will get a better knife, and a better knife, not a butter knife, and that'd be a lame weapon. And Buffy and Faith will fight with those knives. So really, we're setting up the whole season here and all the stuff that's happening. And here the guys get kidnapped. It's so much fun to not have Tony get knocked unconscious for once. He's the Jimmy Olsen of Buffy. He gets knocked out a lot. And here, basically, we're going to ramp up to the end of the season. This is where Faith takes a major turn. And we kind of made it believable and explainable by... they're in the middle of this fight. They're fighting for their lives. They're scared. They're running. They basically have to kill everything they see. And there we go. Faith stakes a human being. And here's where the season changes, and here's where the characters change, and here's where we've gone where we've never gone before. There's so much killing on the show, but it's always supernatural, and here we killed a person. A real, live, non-supernatural person. This is murder. Faith murdered this guy. And it was an accident, but it's still murder. And Sarah just does a great job of playing the reality of that. He's in a new place now. And now everything is different. Being a bad girl anymore. And again, Sarah just gives great performances, really in every episode, but particularly with heightened emotion. I don't know how she gets there, but she gets there. it's fun, too, to pay the price. I think what I love about this show is that nothing is treated lightly, and for every action, there's a consequence. We don't kill people lightly. And here, Angel, who warned Buffy, comes back, and he knows something's terribly wrong. And this is a fun moment to play, because here's Faith, and this is really the turning point for Faith, is this little scene with no dialogue where she looks at the body, and you think she's feeling remorse. You don't know what she's going to do, and we won't find out until the end of the episode. This is really the turning point for this character. What's she going to do having killed this guy? And now we've got a lot of plot to wrap up. And here again, it's so much fun to see Giles being cool in contrast to Wesley. And Wesley is introduced to the world of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You know, he's been studying all this stuff for years, but he's never actually seen a demon or actually fought a vampire. And, you know, Giles just gets to be cool. Fans had mixed feelings about the, action-packed Giles. Someone got on the website and said, oh, it's Giles as Bruce Willis now. But I liked it, and I liked that he's being threatened, and I like that he's ready to kick some ass. He's just tough, and I think Tony plays this very, very well. I love that line where the old cliche of a trade, intriguing. No, wait, boring, rip their knees off. We get to play these kind of science fiction and action adventure cliches and then turn them on their head. We have great jobs. They've really got their back against the wall here, and Boreanaz is about to make an appearance where this is just as Angel was ramping up, and I remember David Greenwalt watching this episode and watching this shot. His name is Angel, and he comes in and does this stuff, and Greenwalt looking at us and saying, okay, I think he's got a series in him. So this was very encouraging for the creation of Angel. And here all hell breaks loose. This is a fun fight scene. And you got this, insane, crippled, giant, fat tub of goo who can't stand up. It would be fun to see what it was like if Balthazar did stand up. I don't think we have the CGI effects to handle it. I'm sorry, I just love Tony with a sword. And here's an effect where cutting the vampire's head off right behind Wesley is good stuff. And one of my favorite lines is "Welcome to the field." Because he's forgiving. Giles is forgiving of Wesley. And here's, a lot of rock'em sock'em action that actually leads to a pretty interesting ending, because so much is going to happen in the... Wow, that was a good flip. In the season after this stuff, what's great is that you get this kind of non-victory where Balthazar... Well, here we go. And I remember going, how do we kill this guy? They're like, electrocution? Yeah, let's electrocute him. And there he goes. A couple of electric blue swirls for good measure. Total Star Wars stuff. And this is what I loved about this episode, is that Balthazar's dying words are a warning. And he's basically saying, if you think I'm bad, wait till you see what the mayor is really like. So Buffy's victory is taken away from her. That's another fun thing we get to play with on this series, is how much do the good guys get? And here, they win, they beat the villain, they slay the monster, and she doesn't feel like she's won anything. There she is, she's scared. The ascension is beginning, and the mayor is turning really bad. I forgot how much happens in this episode. Goodness. And I had a stage direction where the wind blows, and Marty Noxon said, "Can we do something more than the wind blowing? The wind blowing is kind of lame." And half jokingly, I said, "How about an earthquake?" And they said, "Yeah, do an earthquake." I'm like, okay. Show takes place in California. And again, here you got Harry giving this wonderful performance with the juxtaposition where he really is playing both things, and it's never a joke to him. Harry's a wonderful actor. Now the mayor cannot be killed. And the mayor will get even more dangerous. One bumblebee left. There we go. Split his head open. Trip takes this guy out. And you think that this is the end. We have 3 endings on this show. You got killing Balthazar. You got the first coda of, I love call temp agency and become invincible are on his checklist. The mayor is just a fun guy. So here's the second coda. I love when Harry laughs. He's just so creepy. He's a funny guy. And I like that the other actors can laugh at him. So here's the second coda, where you think the episode has ended twice already. And here you've got Lady Macbeth, out, damn spot. She's washing her clothes. She's washing the blood off her clothes. Poor Faith. I can't help it. I feel sorry for her. And here's Jackie Onassis. Here we got Jackie and Faith talking about what happened. And we still don't know about what Faith's take on this death is.
All right.
And here's where Faith really turns. Buffy's ready to take responsibility, and, well, I'll let the scene play out, but things get much, much worse, and these two will never be friends again. And Buffy is the stronger of the two. Faith thinks she's tougher, but she's just hiding her emotions. This last line originally was written emphatically. She really doesn't.
Arg.